So this next diagram is the posture of Brahmagyana Śivarājayoga Samadhi, or infinite spiritual communion, which is Sabhapati's way of translating this royal yoga for Shiva that is predicated on the knowledge or gnosis of Brahman, which Sabhapati also calls the infinite spirit. And this is a model of one of Sabhapati Swami's very first diagrams in his book published in 1880. And this one was published about 3 years later in a trilingual work that includes Tamil, Sanskrit, and English. And if you look here, you can see, like many of the other diagrams, so many parts of this body are numbered, and these connect to various numbers in his published works. And so along the central channel, you have what he calls kingdoms, also lotuses, Kamala, and these are also correlated in his Hindi works with the chakras in the body. And in Sabhapati's system, you don't just have 6 plus 1 at the top, like in the writings of John Woodruff or the Arthur Avalon collaboration. Here you actually have 12, which I think is the same number in texts like the Netra Tantra. And interestingly enough, you have this Brahmarandra here connecting with the infinite circle. Here it's the passive principle. And you have these letters going up here at the top, which are what Sabhapati calls these brightnesses. So there's the brightnesses of the void, there's the brightness of the witness, there's the brightness of the bliss, and so on. And so all of this sort of is an emanation of cosmic reality that goes from this infinite circle, including the sun, moon, and stars, all the way down into the Muladhara kingdom, which is also the site of the Kundali, or coil. And that is sort of the scope of material reality here. And what's interesting about this posture is that Sabhapati's body is also mapped onto a pedestal and the Shivalinga, as we saw before. And so it's a unique kind of homology or connection, correlation of the body of the yogi with the mark of Shiva, these statues, that then the yogis return to after they die. And oftentimes they're buried underneath the Shivalinga as well, the site of their samadhi, which can also mean tomb or tumulus. And so here also you have the name for the title of the work, and you also have the legend and the key that connects these numbers to his writings, that also then connects to practical instructions. Since Sabhapati wasn't just about theorizing about, what all these numbers and points in the body are and, universal principles and everything, he was actually concerned with you realizing what you are, who you are, by gradually canceling out each aspect of yourself until you get to this infinite spiritual state. And that is the process for Sabhapati of Śivarājayoga, the royal yoga for Shiva. And one last thing about this diagram is that here you also have the marks of some knowledge of anatomy that you don't often get in some other yogic diagrams. So you actually have bones here that are sort of, reminiscent of the spinal cord. You have these nadis, which are usually translated as channels, but here they're also connected with sort of, what look like lungs and the stomach and like other kinds of nodes. You have what looks like the heart chambers and arteries and so on. You have a brain, which is interesting. And this could reflect the fact that anatomy and diagrams were just starting to circulate and spread in Madras, today Chennai, in Sabhapati Swami's time. And so there's kind of an attempt to bridge the gap between scientific understandings of the body and the spiritual or cosmic, what sometimes are called psychophysical aspects of the body in yoga.